Good morning, students. This is T. Dube. In today's class, I am going to narrate the story, The Necklace, written by Guy de Maupassant. Look at the image of this beautiful girl. As you can see, she is stunningly, exceptionally beautiful. Her name is Matilda. One day she is invited to a party, for which she borrows a necklace from one of her rich friends. And she loses that necklace in that party. That loss, that mistake of losing the necklace, brings in a storm in her life. It changes her life completely. How does it happen? Listen in the story. Look at the photo of this girl. How beautiful she is. If she had been in front of a poet, I think he would have spent hours in praising each and every part of her face. Her eyes, her nose, her ears, her lips, and the color of her face. And now look at the face of the man who is her husband, and ask a question to yourself. Does he deserve her as a wife? And therefore you can understand what kind of story it is going to be, what kind of story the necklace is going to be. And now, listen to the real story from here on. She was one of those pretty young ladies born as if through an error of destiny, by a mistake of a fate, into a family of clerks. She had no dowry, no hopes, no means of becoming famous, loved, and married by a man either rich or distinguished. And worse, she allowed herself to marry a petty clerk in the office of the Board of Education. She was simple, but she was unhappy. She suffered incessantly, continuously, feeling herself born for all delicacies and luxuries. She suffered from the poverty of her apartment, the untidy walls and the damaged chairs in her house. All these things, untidy walls, damaged chairs, tortured her, angered her. When she seated herself for dinner opposite her husband, who uncovered the balls with a delighted air, saying, "Oh, the good hot pie. I know nothing better than that." She would think of elegant dinners, of shining silver. She thought of the exquisite food served in marvelous dishes. She had neither frocks nor jewels nor ornaments, nothing. And she loved only those things. Now, look at the photo of the girl in the right-hand side image of this slide. She is the third character of this story, the necklace. And if you compare the two girls, the former is obviously more beautiful than the latter. That means Matilda was far more beautiful than her friend. But there was a problem. The problem was Matilda's friend was much, much richer than her. And it was a matter of jealousy. Now listen to the story. What happens, or what kind of relation was there between the two girls? She had a rich friend, a schoolmate at the convent, who she did not like to visit. She suffered so much when she returned. She wept or cried for whole days from despair and disappointment. Then what happens in the story? Let us see from here on. Now, let us come back to this scene once again. But this time, let us focus on the attempts or efforts made by her husband to keep her happy, cheerful, and smiling. So, as we have already known that he was a counter clerk, so whatever he could do in his capacity to make his wife cheerful, excited, happy, he did. But was Matilda the kind of girl, the kind of wife who was going to be happy with those little things? Listen to the next part of the story. One evening, this office worker, or you can say Matilda's husband, returned from his office in a very happy mood. He had a large envelope in his hand, and extending his hand towards his wife, said, Here is something for you." Matilda very eagerly came closer to her husband, and she quickly drew out a printed card on which these words were written. The Minister of Public Instruction and Madame George Ramponneau ask the honor of M. and Mademoiselle's company. Monday evening, January 18, at the minister's residence. Instead of being delighted, instead of being happy, as her husband had hoped that she would be very happy, she would be very excited to see that invitation card, she threw away the invitation hatefully upon the table, saying something, murmuring something, in a very sad mood. "What do you suppose I want with that?" Her husband could not understand and said, "But, my dearie, I thought it would make you happy. You never go out, and this is an occasion, and it's a fine one. Everybody wishes one, and it is very select. Not many are given to employees. You will see the whole official world there," he said. Now, look at Matilda's eyes. They are sorrowful, they are sad, they are full of some kind of irritation, a kind of revolt, as if her eyes are asking a question to her husband. So she looked at her husband with these irritated eyes, and in those irritated words, she asked to her husband, "What do you suppose I have to wear to such a thing as that?" So what she meant to say that she didn't have a good dress to wear to the party. Her husband had not thought of that. So he stammered, he hesitated, and said, "Why? The dress you wear, we go to the theater. It seems very pretty to me." He was silent, stupefied, in dismay at the sight of his wife weeping, crying. So again he continued, he said to his wife, "What is the matter? What is the matter?" When she heard these sentences from her husband, She was unable to control her emotion. But anyhow, controlling her vexation and anger, she responded in a very calm voice, wiping her moist cheeks, tears from her eyes. Nothing. Only I have no dress, and consequently I cannot go to this affair. Give your card to some colleague whose wife is better fitted out than I. He was grieved, but he answered, "But let us see, Matilda. How much would a suitable costume, a dress, something that would serve other occasions also, something very simple, how much would it cost?" He said it to his wife to make her cheer up. And it was an opportunity for her to open her mouth to declare the price of the dress. Now let us see how much money is she going to demand from her husband to buy a dress. When her husband asked her how much money would it cost to buy a dress, Matilda started thinking. And she started thinking for such a huge amount that her husband would refuse it immediately. Finally, she said, in a hesitating voice, I cannot tell exactly, but it seems to me that 400 francs ought to cover it. When her husband listened to this price, he turned a little pale. He felt surprised because he had saved just this sum, 400 francs, to buy a gun that he might be able to join some hunting parties the next summer with some friends who went to shoot larks on Sunday. Nevertheless, yet, he answered, "Okay, very well. I'll give you 400 francs. But try to have a pretty dress, a beautiful dress." So let us see what kind of dress is she going to buy. Now, look at this sad and sorrowful face of Matilda. Even after her husband has given her 400 francs to buy a good dress for the dance event that was going to be organized at the minister's residence, even then she was unhappy. She was sad and sorrowful. What could be the reason next? Let us know in the coming part of the story. The day of the ball, that means dance event, approached, and Mom Loisel seemed sad, disturbed, anxious. Nevertheless, that means yet, her dress was nearly ready. Her husband said to her one evening, "What is the matter with you? You have acted strangely for 2 or 3 days." And she responded, "I'm vexed not to have a jewel, nothing to adorn myself. I shall have such a poverty-stricken look. I would prefer not to go to this party." He replied, "You can wear some natural flowers. In this season, they look very chic, very fantastic." But she was not convinced. "No," she replied, "there is nothing more humiliating than to have a shabby air in the midst of rich women." Then her husband cried out, "How stupid you are! How stupid we are! Go and find your friend Mom's first here and ask her to lend you her jewels." So her husband gave her that idea to ask her friend some ornaments. We have known that she had a friend and she was very rich. After her husband advised her that she could take some jewelry from her friend, the next day she took herself to her friend's house and told her the story of her sorrow. Mum Forestier went to her closet, took out a large jewelry case, brought it, opened it, and said, "Choose, my dear." She saw at first some bracelets, then a collar of pearls, and then a Venetian cross of gold and jewels of admirable workmanship. She tried the jewels before the glass, hesitated, but could neither decide to take them nor leave it. She was confused. Then she asked, "Have you nothing more?" "Oh, why, yes. Look for yourself. I do not know what will please you." She started looking at all the cases of the jewelry, and suddenly she discovered in a black satin box a superb necklace of diamonds. Her hands trembled as she took it out. She placed it about her throat, against her dress, and she was very happy, ecstatic. Then she asked in a hesitating voice, full of anxiety, "Could you lend me these? Only these?" "Why, yes, certainly," said her friend. And in this way, Matilda chose a necklace of diamonds. Then what happened? Let us see in the next part of the story. Now look at the dress that Mademoiselle had spent 400 francs in buying. And she had also borrowed a necklace of diamonds from her friend Mum Forestier. And she was waiting for the dance event to arrive. Now, look at in this image. The day of the ball arrived. Mademoiselle was a great success. She was the prettiest, the most beautiful of all the women who were present in the party. She was elegant, gorgeous, graceful, smiling, and full of joy. All the men noticed her, looked at her, asked her name, and wanted to be presented. She danced with enthusiasm, intoxicated with pleasure, thinking of nothing but all this admiration, this victory so complete and sweet to her heart. She went home towards 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband had been half asleep in one of the little saloons since midnight, with 3 other gentlemen whose wives were also enjoying themselves very much in that party. He threw around her shoulders the modest wraps they had carried, whose poverty collapsed with the elegance of the ball costume. She wished to hurry away in order not to be noticed by the other women who were wrapping themselves in rich furs. Loisel detained her. Wait, said he. "I am going to call a cab." But she would not listen and descended the steps rapidly. When they were in the street, they found no carriage, and they began to seek for one, shouting the coachman whom they saw at a distance. They walked along toward the river, hopeless and shivering. Finally, they found one of those old carriages that one sees in Paris after nightfall. It took them as far as their door, and they went wearily up to their apartment. It was all over for her. And on his part, he remembered that he would have to be at the office by 10 o'clock in the morning. Matilda removed the wraps from her shoulders before the glass for a final look, for a final view of herself in her glory. Suddenly she uttered a cry. Her necklace was not around her neck. Then what happened? Let us see in the next part of the story. Look at this image carefully. It speaks out everything. The diamond necklace which she had borrowed from her friend Matilda is not sparkling around her neck. The hand on head asks a question. What will happen now? The second hand on the mirror asks, what face will I show to Matilda? Now ask a question to yourself. Will this loss change the course of her future life? Let us see in the coming part of the story. Her husband, Mr. Loisel, was already half undressed when he saw his wife disturbed over something. So he asked, "What is the matter?" She turned towards him excitedly and said, I have no longer have Matilda's necklace." He arose in dismay, in sorrow. "What? How is that? It is not possible." And they looked in the folds of the dress, in the folds of the cloak, in the pockets, everywhere. They could not find it. He asked, "You are sure you still had it when we left the minister's house?" "Yes, I felt it as we came out." "But if you had lost in the street, we should have heard it fall. It must be in the cab." "Yes, it is possible." "Did you take the number?" "No." "And you? Did you notice what it was?" "No." They looked at each other utterly cast down. Finally, Loisel dressed himself again. "I'm going," he said, "over the track where we went on foot to see if I can find it." And he went. She remained in her evening gown, not having the force to go to bed. Towards 7 o'clock, her husband returned. He had found nothing. He went to the police and to the cab offices and put an advertisement in the newspapers offering a reward. She waited all day in a state of bewilderment before this frightful disaster. Loisel returned in the evening. His face was pale, sad, hanging. He had discovered nothing. He said, "Write to your friend that you have broken the clasp of the necklace and that you will have it repaired. That will give us some time." She wrote as he dictated. At the end of a week, they had lost all hope, and Loisel, older by 5 years, declared, "We must replace this jewel." Now look at this image carefully. The 3 scenes, ironing the cloths, cleaning the floor, and doing all the kitchen work, plainly show what is going to follow and who is responsible for dragging a happy life to this estate: Matilda herself and her desire to behave like a rich woman. Now listen to the coming part of the story. In a shop of the Palais Royal, they found a chaplet of diamonds, which seemed to them exactly like the one they had lost. It was valued at 40,000 francs. They could get it for 36,000. Loisel possessed 18,000 francs, which his father had left him. He borrowed the rest. He made ruinous promises, took money from usurers and the whole race of lenders. Then he went to get the new necklace, depositing on the merchant's counter 36,000 francs. When Mum Loisel took back the jewels to Mum Forestier, her friend said to her in a very rude tone, "You should have returned them to me sooner, for I might have needed them." Mum Forestier did not even open the jewel box, as Mum Loisel feared she would. What would she think if she should perceive the substitution? What should she say? Would she take her for a robber? Mum Loisel now knew the horrible life of necessity. She did her part, however, completely, heroically, bravely. They sent away the maid, they changed their lodgings, they rented some rooms in an attic. She learned the odious work of a kitchen. She washed the dishes, she washed the soiled linen, their cloths and dishcloths, which she hung on the line to dry. She took down the refuse to the street each morning and brought up the water, stopping at each landing to catch her breath, and clothed like a woman of the people, a poor woman. She went to the grocers, the butchers, and the fruiterers, with her basket on her arm, shopping, haggling to the last sou of her miserable money. The husband worked evenings, putting the books of some merchants in order, and nights he often did copying at 5 sous a page, and this life lasted for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had restored all. Mum Loisel seemed old now. She had become a strong, hard woman, the crude women of the poor household. Her hair badly dressed, her skirts awry, her hands red. She spoke in a loud tone and washed floors with large pails of water. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she would sit herself before the window and think of that evening party of former times, 10 years ago, of that ball, the dance event, where she was so beautiful, so gorgeous, and so flattered. How would it have been if she had not lost the necklace? Who knows? How singular is life, and how full of changes. How small a thing will ruin or save one. One Sunday, as she was taking a walk in the Champs-Élysées to rid herself of the cares of the week, she suddenly saw a woman walking with a child. It was Mum Forestier, still young, still pretty, still attractive. Mum Loisel was affected and started thinking, should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? So she approached her, went closer to her, and wished, "Good morning, Jenny." Her friend did not recognize her and was astonished to be so familiarly addressed by this common personage. She stammered, hesitated. "But, madam, I do not know you. You must be mistaken." "No, I am Matilda Loisel." Her friend uttered a cry of astonishment. Oh, my poor Matilda, how you have changed. Yes, I have had some hard days since I saw you, and some miserable ones, and all because of you. Because of me? How is that? You recall the diamond necklace that you loaned me to wear to the minister's ball, the dance party? Yes, very well. Well, I lost it. How is that, since you returned it to me? I returned another to you exactly like it, and it has taken us 10 years to pay for it. You can understand that it was not easy for us who have nothing. But it is finished. I am decently content. I am happy that the burden of the loan is over. Mum Forestier stopped short. She said, You say that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine? Yes. You did not see it then? They were just like your diamond necklace. And she smiled with proud and simple joy. Mum Forestier was touched and took both her hands as she replied, Oh, my poor Matilda, mine were false. They were not worth over 500 francs. So this is the end of the story, and I do believe that you must have enjoyed it.